Greta Scacchi was one of the most beautiful and talented actresses of her time. Her beauty was classic, her acting skills were fearless, and her career took her from Hollywood to Europe. People don't just think of her great performances or prestigious awards, though, when they talk about Scacchi. A child she had with her first cousin, a stormy relationship, and some very public bad choices made her the center of one of Hollywood's most famous scandals. At one point, Scacchi was Hollywood's top choice for mesmerizing lead roles. She turned down an iconic part in Basic Instinct, which at the time was a brave choice. As her career took off, it looked like she was about to become famous. Then she made a mistake that set off a chain of bad decisions that ended her career faster than anyone could have imagined. The star went from being a box office queen to an unknown name so quickly that even Hollywood was shocked. The scandal got out. Lots of people were shocked. Scacchi was no longer in the spotlight when the doors to Hollywood shut. What did you do? Why would an actress who was at the top of her game destroy everything by herself? People didn't see these choices coming in this story about fame, love, tragedy, and never-ending controversy. Also, if you think you know all about Hollywood scandals, you need to read Greta Scacchi's story. It's unlike any other you've heard. Born on February 18th, 1960, in Milan, Italy, Greta Scacchi comes from a family with a long history of art. Lucas Scacchi was her painter and art dealer father, and Pamela was her dancer mother. She seemed destined for a calm childhood in the exciting world of art, but when she was 4 years old, her parents got a divorce, which changed everything. Separation not only had a big effect on her, but it also made the family less stable. Tom and Paul to London, where they eventually settled in Sussex, England. This sudden change put Greta's childhood in two very different places. When she moved to England, she had to get used to a strict, organized, and structured environment. But each time she went back to Italy to see her dad, she entered a different world. During her time in Milan, she was surrounded by art. The language barrier wasn't the only problem. Greta thought she had two lives going at once. One was ruled by England's rules and restrictions, and the other by Italy's wild and free spirit. This big difference made her feel like she was always out of place, like she never really belonged anywhere. The next big change happened when her mother remarried a university professor named Giovanni Coringa in 1975. The family then moved to Perth, Australia. Once more, Greta had to get used to a place she didn't know. She started acting in school plays in Perth, which is where she discovered her deep love for the stage. She loved the arts, but that wasn't enough to keep her from having money problems. Greta worked as a farmhand, took care of animals, and even did work as an Italian interpreter to make money. These things not only helped her make money, but they also made her strong and independent, which would be very important in her acting career. Greta has always liked the theater, but she never thought she would be a movie star. She thought the stage was where real art happened. So when the chance came up to follow her dream, she didn't think twice about starting at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, one of the best places to learn how to act in England. It was a strict and difficult place to work, but it was also where she started building the skills she would need to become an actress. Starting out with small parts on TV and commercials, Greta Scacchi quickly showed how talented she was. Her first movie, Das zweite Gesicht, 1982, showed how determined she was as an actress, ready to do anything to fully embody a role. To play a part in this German movie, Scacchi even taught herself German so she could act like a real person. This showed how dedicated she was and also hinted at a tough approach to acting that would define her career. That changed everything, though, when she was cast as Olivia in Heat and Dust in 1983. It was a Merchant Ivory production that made her famous. Olivia was a tricky character because she was a Western woman who moved to India and fell in love with a forbidden lover. The movie needed Scacchi to do both subtle and bold, personal scenes, which was a big challenge for a new actress on the rise. In one of the most striking scenes of the movie, Olivia is deeply in love with Nawab, a mysterious Indian nobleman. Long shadows are cast by the flickering oil lamps in a dimly lit room, and the oppressive heat of the tropics makes the tension between them even stronger. Scacchi looks totally naked, with a body that shows off the raw sensuality and desire of her character. The scene is built up slowly and carefully. There is no hurry. There is only skillful storytelling that captures the emotional surge in a way that can't be tamed. There is no doubt or awkwardness. Scacchi gives up everything for the part, which lets Olivia leave behind all the rules of Western society and enter a world of forbidden pleasure and desire. It was a huge hit, and she quickly became famous in Hollywood. Once Scacchi finished a run of movies in Europe, she quickly became a popular actress in the United States. Hollywood couldn't say no to a face that had a classic beauty, while giving off a mysterious charm. She became a symbol for roles that were both seductive and smart, weak and strong. That was a rare mix back then, and it made her one of the most promising European actresses in American movies. However, Scacchi had no idea that the decisions she would make in the years to come would take her career in an unimaginable direction, despite how quickly she had risen. After Heat and Dust, Greta Scacchi quickly became famous by playing a string of iconic roles that were both artistically risky and emotionally hard. In 1987, she made a big splash with the movie White Mischief, which was about British aristocrats in Kenya who were seduced and betrayed, who starts a dangerous relationship. Because of the movie, she became the center of attention and became known as an actress who isn't afraid to play complicated roles. Diana and her lover have a secret meeting outside of a grand estate, while the African moon shines hazily in one of the movie's most memorable scenes. The scene of love was carefully put together, not only for how beautiful it looked, but also for how rawly it showed how a woman was feeling, torn between reckless love and the fear of what would happen. In 1990, Scacchi made another big step forward when she starred with Harrison Ford in the psychological thriller Presumed Innocent, which was full of courtroom drama and affairs that were not allowed. In the movie, she played a prosecutor with an unclear relationship with Ford's character. This made things more tense both in court and behind closed doors. They had one of the most interesting relationships of the time on screen, with sexual attraction and hidden agendas clashing in an electrifying showdown. The Player, directed by Robert Altman and starring Greta Scacchi, really shook Hollywood up in 1992. One of the most controversial naked scenes of the 1990s was in this movie, which was a biting satire on the movie business. During a brave and unfiltered moment that lasted almost a minute, Scacchi looked like he was completely exposed. There were no clever angles or soft lighting to hide the truth. During a time when Hollywood didn't like showing such honest weakness, this scene was both shocking and deeply symbolic. Not only the actress, but also the entertainment business as a whole. Scacchi's lack of clothes wasn't a show. As an artist, it was an important part of a character who showed her body and soul in a world ruled by power and illusion. Few actresses would have made such a risky choice. Scacchi showed how versatile she was when she played Mrs. Weston in Emma, in addition to her sensual and mysterious roles. In 1996, the Jane Austen adaptation won her praise from critics, showing a more refined performance that was different from the seductive image she had been known for. She could shine even without sexy scenes. Her control of voice, expression, and poised elegance gave her character depth and showed that she could captivate audiences in any role. Hollywood will remember Scacchi not only for her great acting, but also for her unwavering dedication to her beliefs. She politely turned down a part in Basic Instinct, which was one of the most important movies of the 1990s, because she didn't like the script or the way director Paul Verhoeven was going about things. She quit a project that could have made her even more famous. It was not a smart move, but it showed that Scacchi wasn't willing to give in to fame. She wasn't the kind of actress who would give up artistic integrity to make more money. Scacchi's talent was consistently recognized with prestigious awards, even though she took risks with a lot at stake. For her role as Queen Alexandra in Rasputin, Dark Servant of Destiny, she won an Emmy in 1996, a historical part that showed how versatile she was even more. She didn't stop there. In 2000, she won the AFI Award for Best Supporting Actress for her role in Looking for Alibrandi. This showed that she was a much more complex actress than the glamorous and seductive roles that made her famous in the beginning. At the height of her fame, Greta Scacchi fell in love with Vincent D'Onofrio, an actor who is best known for his role in Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. Their relationship wasn't like any other. It was a storm of feelings that held them together with passion and deep understanding. They were one of the most beautiful couples in movies. Scacchi looks beautiful in a classic way, and D'Onofrio is intense and rough. In many Hollywood love stories, though, the intensity often led to tragedy. It's hard to imagine how much she loved D'Onofrio, but their love was not meant to last. In 1992, when their daughter Layla George was born, problems started to show in their relationship. They said goodbye in tears just 6 months after Layla was born. No one knew why they broke up, but Scacchi never hid how sad she was. She went downhill after the breakup and felt lost and alone. She was missing from the screen for 4 years because she couldn't find her footing. It was devastating for a woman who used to have it all: beauty, success, and fame. To lose love and be on the verge of Hollywood's oblivion. She was so hurt that she couldn't work or concentrate on anything else. Afterward, Scacchi said that this was the worst time of her life because love had ended and she didn't recognize herself. For several years, I couldn't work because a relationship took over my life. It was terrible for 4 years and ruined my career. Not only did she lose D'Onofrio, but she also lost her drive, her ambition, and the attention that had once made her famous. Here in Hollywood, even a moment of silence can erase everything. Scacchi didn't act in any movies or TV shows during that time, and she didn't try to get her career back. But as the sad days went by, she began to understand one thing. The pain had to end. She couldn't let it. Now I really feel like a winner. I found a way to celebrate getting through such sadness. The pain of loss and heartbreak no longer followed her around. They fueled her. But just as she was planning to go back, things changed in Hollywood. She wasn't playing the important parts anymore. Once, directors were interested in her, but now they're looking for younger actors. To stay alive, no one saw Scacchi's choice coming. You might think that Greta Scacchi would be more careful in her relationships after her breakup with Vincent D'Onofrio. However, Hollywood is not a place for quiet relationships, and Scacchi quickly became involved in one of the most shocking relationships of her time. The man at the center of it all this time was Daniel Day-Lewis, who is one of the best actors working today. A man who was both mysterious and hard to predict. This time, Scacchi wasn't seeing anyone, unlike her last relationship. At the time, Daniel Day-Lewis had been dating French actress Isabelle Adjani for a long time. Adjani was famous for both her beauty and her talent, and Daniel Day-Lewis used to love her very much. But Day-Lewis and Scacchi fell into each other's arms like two raging fires that could not be put out. It all started out in the dark. People saw Scacchi and Day-Lewis together at fancy restaurants late at night, where they looked at each other for way too long. They would sometimes both disappear at the same time from high-profile events, which led to more rumors. At first, both denied having an affair, but photos that were leaked started to show the truth. The final blow was when Isabelle Adjani said in public that she had been lied to. A source said that Adjani had known about the affair for a long time, but had kept quiet to try to save her relationship with Day-Lewis. She finally couldn't take it any longer. After giving an interview, she spoke out. Her words were full of both pain and respect. Maybe the best years of my life weren't enough for him. It was a scandal, but Adjani wasn't the only one who was hurt. Things quickly fell apart between Scacchi and Day-Lewis. That man who was known as the one who could never be tied down really lived up to his name. His departure from Scacchi was similar to his departure from Isabelle Adjani. The affair ended just as quickly as it started, but the hurt it caused never fully healed. She was once a respected actress known for making risky choices, but now Scacchi was linked to one of Hollywood's most famous cheating scandals. Even though there were chances for her career to get better, she could never get rid of the stain. No one would have expected what happened next to be more shocking than what she had just been through. Many people in Hollywood were shocked by Greta Scacchi's passionate but scandalous relationship with Daniel Day-Lewis. But what she would do next would make things even worse, not just in the entertainment business, but also in her own family. Scacchi didn't try to start over with a new partner after a string of failed relationships. Instead, she went in a direction no one could have seen coming. Carlo Montagazza was her first cousin, so she chose him. Everyone was outraged by the relationship right away, including her family. It's not like Carlo Montagazza was a distant relative. The sister of her father had a son. The blood relationship makes him her first cousin. On the other hand, unlike most cousins who grow up together, these two weren't very close as kids and only became close as adults. Greta had made Australia her second home, and Carlo left Italy to start a new life there. This is when their paths crossed. They were both interested in art and had similar views on life, which led to an unexpected connection. The closeness that began as family grew into something deeper. But when they went from being related to each other to dating, things got a lot more complicated. When Scacchi's family found out that she was dating and having a child with her first cousin, things went badly. Her father, Greta Scacchi, who has strong Roman Catholic beliefs, was the most vocal opponent. It broke his heart. Couldn't stand what he saw as a breach of family honor. Other family members in Italy were just as angry, and some cut off all ties with the family, making the fight so bad that it could not be fixed. However, the family wasn't the only ones affected. The revelation caused a huge uproar in the public and the media. Cousin marriages were not against the law in Italy or most of Europe, but they were still seen as very rude. The press looked at the scandal from every angle, from moral concerns to genetic effects, asking parents what the scandal might mean for their children and for society as a whole. Even though people were angry, Scacchi did not back down. She said, "People were shocked, but it is completely legal," in an interview. Even though she and Carlo were under a lot of scrutiny, they stayed together. In 1998, they had their son Matteo, who is a living example of how they chose to go their own way despite what other people thought. But even though they seemed to be beating the odds, things were not at all what they seemed. Pressures from outside their relationship were always there. There was still social stigma, persistent whispers, and family tensions. In 2010, they quietly broke up. There were no public announcements, court cases, or dramatic accusations like in the divorces of famous people in Hollywood that often make the news. There was silence at the end, just like at the beginning. According to people who knew them well, they broke up not because they were angry or hurt, but because they had grown apart over time. Their promise to co-parent their son Matteo was the only thing they kept in common. Due to her private nature, Scacchi never talked about the breakup in public, as if she wanted the story to go away. Greta Scacchi's relationship with Carlo Montagazza is still one of Hollywood's most talked about scandals, even though they tried hard to hide it. A time in her life that she will always remember, for shockingly breaking the rules. Hollywood has always been cruel to actresses who are no longer beautiful, and Greta Scacchi was no different. As she turned 40, she realized that the roles she was being offered were mostly boring supporting roles like mothers, ex-wives, or characters with no depth. It was very different from how male actors kept getting lead roles even as they got older. Scacchi wouldn't be ignored, so she spoke out strongly against the ageism and gender bias in the movie business. She said she didn't want to play roles that were just there to support the male leads anymore. Instead, she wanted to play characters with real emotional depth and meaning. In addition to being her own fight, this was a rallying cry for many talented actresses who had been passed over by Hollywood because they were no longer beauty icons. But Scacchi's fight didn't just happen on the screen. Also, she became a leader in environmental activism in a way that no one saw coming. She posed naked with a huge codfish in 2010 for the Fish Love campaign, which tried to bring attention to the problems caused by overfishing and ocean damage. The image made me feel something right away, not just because it was brave, but also because it had a strong message. Soon, the oceans will only have empty space if we don't change. This was more than just a publicity stunt. The campaign really did make a difference. Environmentalists and politicians were interested in fish love, which helped start conversations that led to stricter rules on large-scale fishing in Europe, proving that a person's legacy isn't just the awards they get, but also the changes they make in the world. She kept building her reputation on stage by giving brave and difficult performances. For her role as Queen Elizabeth I and Mary Stuart, she was nominated for a Sydney Theatre Award. This was a big moment in her acting career, but it was the deep blue sea that made her feel the most beautiful as an actress. There was more to this than a part. Like Scacchi's own life, it was true. She, Esther Collier, the character she played, was a woman who gave up everything for love and ended up in hell. A striking similarity to Scacchi's own life. She was brave enough to love, fight, and deal with scandal so she could live her life honestly. Scacchi left her mark on the world in her own unique way, even though she was no longer the Hollywood beauty she used to be. It wasn't necessary for her to walk the red carpet to show how great she was. She kept standing up for women, art, and the earth. That is a legacy that can't be brushed off. Even though she is 64 years old, Greta Scacchi is still a dedicated artist who keeps pushing herself with new film and TV projects. She was in the psychological thriller Run Rabbit Run in 2023, playing Joan, a character whose identity is unknown, which added to the tense mood of the movie. Fans of psychological thrillers were excited when this work, which stars Sarah Snook and came out on Netflix on June 28, 2023. In the same year, Scacchi was in the TV show Bodies, which showed how versatile she is by combining science fiction with a crime investigation. She is involved in the arts, but she chooses to live a private life in England and stay out of unneeded entertainment industry scandals. Now that Scacchi isn't always in the news, she puts time with her family and her true passions first, which is very different from her lively and sometimes troubled past. Scacchi keeps a low profile in the media, but she still takes part in important art events. She went to a showing of Merchant Ivory in London on March 16, 2024, as part of BFI Flair 2024, an event honoring the classic works she had helped make. She was invited to speak at the Gabunco Gibraltar Literary Festival on September 2, 2024. There, she talked about her career, art, and personal thoughts on the movie business. In 2024 and 2025, Scacchi went back to the stage with the play Bet and Joan, which ran at the Park Theatre London. Scacchi's current way of life includes protecting her privacy, living a simple life, and making her own contributions to the arts. After big changes in her personal and professional life, she has now found balance, which is hard to do in Hollywood, which is both glamorous and dangerous. From being a movie star to being at the center of some of Hollywood's biggest scandals, Greta Scacchi's life shows how to make brave decisions, stay strong, and deal with the highs and lows of fame. She was once the best in her field and was praised for both her looks and her skills. She never thought twice about making choices that sent shockwaves around the world, though. Whether people liked or disliked her choices, they showed that she was a woman who was brave enough to live her life on her own terms, no matter what other people thought. It doesn't matter if you like Greta Scacchi or not. She will always be remembered in Hollywood history. Should she be put to death, though? Or is she a symbol of freedom and choice? Tell us what you think in the space below. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to keep finding out about Hollywood's most shocking stories.